A Sapphire Running Zone podcast.
Hi everyone, it's Tim from the Sapphire Running Zone, and this is another in our Runner Stories podcast series, and we are doing another London Marathon one today. And this is with Sian from Cornwall, who has run for Cornwall Hospice Care. Sian has had some real fun and games in her training, and was even doubtful whether she'd be able to make it on the day, but she did. And Sian, tell us what it was like.
It was absolutely incredible, like insanely amazing. I know everyone says it's amazing, and you always, okay, but it really, really is just the best day. Amazing.
Good, but your training towards the end wasn't quite so amazing, was it? Talk us through, the last 6 months. It started so well, didn't it? But didn't quite go where you wanted it to.
Yeah, as so often happens. Hey, the training was following a plan. I was being sensible. I was building up slowly. I was doing all the right things, and got to 16 miles, and then did a half marathon race just to kind of experience and that was I think that's a really good tip, is before you go to London, try and do some sort of small half marathon or whatever, some sort of race, even if it's like a fun run or something, just to experience that, turning up at a set time with lots of other people, and what that's like. So all of that had gone brilliantly. And then 4 or 5 weeks before marathon day, at the beginning of one of our long runs, my knee kind of just started hurting. I tried to ignore it, got worse, and it wasn't hurting walking, so I thought I'll just walk. Probably maybe not the wisest idea in hindsight, but I was just, you're just so set on, I've got to get these miles. And actually, if I'm on my feet, that's still time on my feet. That's still distance. That's still good training. As I say, probably not the best move. And basically, I've had this IT band problem in my left knee, sort of around my left knee since then. I didn't run for 4 weeks, and then Easter Monday, which was 6 days before the marathon, I tried a very gentle, walked a mile, planned to run 1 or 2, and within a mile I was like, no, I'm going to walk. It's hurting. I thought that was still okay. I just thought, right, I'll walk on marathon day. It's not the way I planned it, but I could still get there. I could still do it. And then that afternoon we went down to the beach, and it's like yards, downhill. And when I came to come back up the hill, I basically couldn't walk up the hill. And I literally it was so painful. I couldn't get my leg in front of me to actually walk. I ended up having to do some kind of weird sidesteppy crab walk just to get myself back home. And at that point, I thought, this is like the worst thing that could happen 6 days before the marathon. And I really, at that point, questioned whether I would actually be able to get myself there, whether it was the right thing to do. And my heart was just saying, you have to start and just see where you get to. And my head was saying, are you gonna cause yourself a lasting problem, and all those sorts of things. I didn't want to let down the charity. I didn't want to let down all the people that sponsored me. I didn't want to let down all the children at school that I teach. I didn't want to turn up and be like, didn't even make it to the start line. And I also knew for myself that if I had to turn up and watch my husband run it and me stand as a spectator, that would have I'd have been devastated. So saw the physio. The physio said, as far as we're concerned, you're not going to cause any permanent damage. So if you feel able to do it, then by all means go and do it. And that for me was enough. I was like, right, whatever happens, I am going to be there on the day, and I will keep putting one foot in front of the other until physically I can't do that anymore. And let's hope that's after I've got past the finish line, kind of thing. Yeah. So going into race day it wasn't the exciting, amazing experience that perhaps it is. I mean, my husband was just like, I'm so excited to finally get there and I can't wait to get going. And I was like the complete opposite.
What was race week like logistically for you? Because that wasn't even straightforward, was it? Because there were trips to Wolverhampton and dropping the lad off and all sorts, weren't there?
So we went up on the train on the Friday to London. Well, we were supposed to all go to London together. The train got cancelled at Reading. So they went from Reading to Wolverhampton, my husband and son, on the Friday. I carried on to London, checked our bag in, and then went to the expo to get both of our bibs. And I met my stepbrother who was running as well. He's done it before. You could see everyone at the expo was like, oh, this is like the, and him and I we were very much like, we are coming here, we're getting our number, we'll have a quick look round, but we are not, neither of us wanted to. And my stepbrother was like, this is the time that I absolutely hate, because every step I take in my mind, I'm like, am I going to get a niggle? Is someone going to knock into me and I'm going to go over on my ankle? So he was like, just both of us almost just wanted to go there, do what we had to do, and then get back to our separate accommodation and just relax and be like, okay, tick, that one's. Loads of people had an amazing time there. I did briefly meet up with one of the other hospice runners, and she stayed for a couple of hours. She had a massage and she met a couple of the celebs who were doing it and things like that. Yeah, we just went and did that. And then on the Saturday, my husband and son came back to London, had quite a quiet day, and then my son went off and stayed at my cousin's house, which was lovely because it meant race day morning. My husband and I literally focused on ourselves. We got up, we did all those prep things, which take a lot longer than I knew they were going to, but you're putting your Vaseline sun cream, and you're trying to work out. We'd packed everything in our belts and stuff the night before, but it's just those little things. And obviously with the weather as it was like, do I do Vaseline first and then sun cream, or sun cream then so it's like, no one told me that beforehand. So the logistics of it, in the end, that it worked out really well. But yeah, again, that was something that it wasn't as straightforward, simple. And I think going up on the Friday was definitely the best thing.
So what was it like when you got up on the Sunday morning then? What were the emotions like, and what time did you get to the start?
So as I say, we were supposed to be in wave 14 and 16, which were quite late. But because I just knew if I'd gone out after 11 a.m. and the start line closes at 11:30, and then you've got 8 hours, and then they start like sweeping up the later people, and they start opening the roads, and and there's the possibility if you don't make it to the finish line by 7:30, you're going to get then moved to St James's Park to finish, and all those things. So I'd sort of made a decision that, well, we'd said we would just go early, turn up and scope it out, see whether there was a possibility or not of getting in. And also we knew we were there then. It was that. So we got up at about six-ish, I think. I mean, to be honest, I was wide awake. So it wasn't a case of set the alarm and have to get up. We were awake anyway. Shower, made sure we had a proper breakfast. So we had a couple of hot cross buns each, which we'd been having quite a lot of prior to training runs anyway. Took a banana and like a flapjacky thing with us. We put our numbers on our bibs the night before, which again, I was really grateful. We set off 7-ish. We'd already mapped out exactly which tube we'd done that in advance. Again, definitely recommend planning your journey.
A Sapphire Running Zone podcast.
Came out of Blackheath, walked up the hill to the starting area, went to the toilet about 5 times. No, I think I only actually went to the toilet once, but it's just huge. You don't really appreciate the scale of it. I've had a look back at the some of the TV commentary where they've got the aerial photos, and you think, wow, it really is a huge area there.
What were your emotions like when you went over that start line, and what were the sort of highlights of the first half of the race, that bit up to Tower Bridge?
So obviously when I'd made a decision that because I had gone early, I was like, I don't want to get in people's ways. It's not fair. All these people who are trying to run 3 hour, 3.5 hour, whatever, they're trying to run to a particular time. I was like, I'm in here because for me, that's really the only option in order for me to feel like I've got a chance of completing it. So I'd made a very conscious decision. I was going right over to the side, which is what I did. I stuck to the left-hand side all the way to Tower Bridge, and I just tucked right in, out of the way of everyone. So as we set off, if you see those videos of like crowds of people, and everyone had said, you will be shoulder to shoulder. I've got a video of me crossing over. I filmed it as I was crossing the start line, and it's quite spread out, which I'm amazed at, considering. I think it's because I hung back in wave. I hung back so that I wasn't slowing anyone down. I ran out over the start line because I was like, I can't not run this. Someone's going to go, what are you doing in that wave? You're walking. So but I was thinking, please, at that point, I was like, wow, here we're off. This is amazing. But please, this little gentle bit of running, please don't let that affect the rest of the 26 miles or whatever further, So as soon as was kind of reasonable, then slowed down. I started walking. Almost immediately, as I was right out the way, and someone ran past and just touched my shoulder and went, "Are you okay? Is everything all right?" Which I just straight away I thought, wow, someone else is clearly doing their own race. We've just set off, and straight away the care and compassion. Yeah, I was like, "Oh, I'm good, thanks." Didn't want to slow them down. And the crowd, I had my name on my top, which I would highly recommend, because I couldn't even tell you how many thousands of people. They scream your name and they go, come on, you can do this. And I think because I was walking so early, people thought like I needed a boost. So they're like, "You've got this, come on, pick it up again. You can get going again." And I'm thinking, I'm not gonna, I wanted a big sign saying I'm walking because I'm injured almost. But it was just, as I say, I just looked up, looked around, took it all in, smiled I think I've just looked through the professional photos and I'm basically smiling on 99% of them. I've just got this big Cheshire cat, and most of them I've got my arms up in the air. I'm like, yeah.
I mean, that's really good considering the challenges that you had to get on the start line and knowing that you were going to walk the majority of it. I think having that attitude is absolutely the right one, because you still got the most from the day. So going over Tower Bridge obviously is a real highlight, isn't it? And
Yeah.
And then that turn then towards Docklands, and then you start seeing people coming towards you is a challenging time. How did that feel for you when you were in that position?
So I intended to meet up with my husband. I'd said, just run it. So I didn't see him. He must have overtaken at some point, but neither of us saw each other. But I'd arranged originally then to meet the third guy, one of our three musketeers, three amigos, as we were calling ourselves. He'd done 10 prior. So he'd said all along, "I will stick with you, whether you walk or run. If you need me to be your support, I'm going to be there for you," which was amazing. And he was in red 5, I was in blue. So when, obviously I didn't know which wave I was going to be starting in. So we'd said, whatever happens, we'll meet by our charity, where our charity people are, at just past Cutty Sark, mile 6-ish. Anyway, I got there and I hadn't really realised how fast I was walking. I was doing 13-minute miles. So I'd got out there and he runs 13 or 14-minute miles. So when I got there, I knew he wasn't going to be there yet. So I said to the charity people, I said, "Can you tell him I'm keeping going?" I just knew I didn't want to stop, because I thought if I stop, I might seize up or that adrenaline will drop. So I said, "Just tell him I'll keep going, and for him to catch up whenever, I'm fine." So anyway, off I carried on, saw the Cutty Sark and all of those things. And he kept ringing me. He's like, "Where are you?" And he was really out of breath. "Where are you?" "I've just gone past mile 8. He's like, "Oh, right. Okay, I'll 10 minutes or so I should catch it." Anyway, he didn't catch up with me till just before Tower Bridge. It must have been about mile 12. So that was really great, because just before you've got all the iconic, the start of everything, and then the start of probably, like you say, the difficult bit of knowing you're going into that Docklands and knowing that everyone coming the other way is at mile 20 odd or whatever. Him and I were then together, and we just dropped the pace right down and just had a real laugh, just milked the whole experience. And when we came down that bit where they're coming the other way and you're sort of mile 14-ish, they're mile 20-ish, something like that. I was like, let's go on the right hand side. I don't really fancy like being that close to because you don't want to see how exhausted they look, because you think, "Oh, I've got that to come," and B, because you're just like, oh no, it's just disheartening that they're 6 miles ahead of us or whatever. And at that point, I'd been waiting to go to the toilet as well. I thought I'll wait till he catches up with me, because I don't want to go to the toilet and him miss me. Then obviously got to Tower Bridge, and I was like, as we'd gone over Tower Bridge, I was like, right, really, really, really need a wee. And there was no toilets. So my advice, go to the toilet before Tower Bridge, because after Tower Bridge, they're quite regular. And then there seems to be about 2 miles with not a single toilet that I saw. I didn't see any of the other. There were loads of people there that I knew that were looking out for me. I didn't see anybody, but I saw Will, and he was with my 2 cousins and their families. And Will had said beforehand, he said, "I know you've got to walk it, but I want to film you. Please, could you just run?" And even if he hadn't asked, I would have done. I'm just like, he filmed me and I'm just running towards him. And it gives you the most incredible boost. I mean, just magic. Seeing someone who's, I mean, the whole crowd all the way were incredible. I high-fived everyone, but seeing someone that, someone you love like that. And I think at that point as well, but Bodders did have, he then, when we set off again, he said, now you're going way faster now. He said, you've just had a massive extra adrenaline spike seeing your family. He said, be careful. We're at close to mile 19. He said, there's still a long way to go. And I thought, and actually that was the right advice, because I think you need that lift, but you have to make sure you don't then, a bit like at the start line, you don't want to get too carried away with that lift and then stitch yourself up.
But that last few miles down embankment is stunning, isn't it? When you start seeing, and then you come down Birdcage Walk, you've got Big Ben, and that, I presume did you do the usual crying?
No, I fully expected. The week before, I don't think I've ever been such an emotional wreck. Even, I don't think I've ever been that emotional in the build up. But I sort of think because I was had such an emotional roller coaster that week before, on the day, I was just buzzing. So rather than crying, I was just like high as a kite, I think. And then we got to that where it says just before you turn right by Buckingham Palace, and there's a sign overhead that says 365 or 385 yards to go. Bodders went to take a photo of me, and this random guy went, oh, shall I get a photo of the two of you? We were like, are you sure? Yeah, I'll take a picture. So we turned around and stood there, and he starts running backwards to get, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you've run over 26 miles at this point, and there you are going back to get the right angle, and he's like, oh, I've taken a few for you.
People are so nice to each other, aren't they, on the day? It's incredible.
I mean, I said to a few people, if you have any crises of humanity, go to there. Go as a spectator, go as a participant. It doesn't matter. I saw so many acts of kindness to strangers, people really looking out for each other, people really cheering and supporting strangers. And, I felt that myself, and it was it's beautiful. It really was like, I don't think I can think of another setting where people are quite that, and it's so inclusive on the day. You've got people in fancy dress, you've got people who are really pro sports, people who were pushing for a PB. You've got all these people crammed into a really tight space, but it just works.
I remember one year I did it as one of the rhinos, and I remember every time I pulled into a water station, I mean, it's very hard to take water on in that particular outfit. And I remember every single time I pulled into a water station, people were coming round saying, are you okay? Do you need me to pass some water in there? And they don't have to, because at that point, particularly towards the end, as you say, people have run a long way, and a lot of people are focused on themselves. But in that race, it just seems to be something about it that people are bothered about others. So what was it like when you actually went over the finish line? What was that like emotionally?
Mainly relief, but also I did feel, I don't know whether I felt it at the time. Bodders filmed me. I've got a footage of me running that last stretch and then crossing the line. And as I crossed the line like this, and I actually, we talked about joking about me outdoing people, because I hadn't run and I ran that last bit. I was overtaking people, and I hadn't really noticed because I was just so focused on what I was doing. But there are people either side of me, being supported by two volunteers, like not able to independently cross the finish line and things, which I hadn't really clocked. And then as I crossed the line, I was just like, woo! And then he turned to me and he went, how are you feeling? And I just go, good. Like the most ridiculous word to summarize how you're actually feeling. Good. Could not be more of an understatement, really. But I think it's almost disbelief for that moment. I don't think it quite immediately sunk in, and I was just, again, I think I just, to start with, just felt so happy that I'd done it, and relieved, pride. I had to overcome an awful lot of adversity to even get on the start line, to be able to finish it and to be able to have enjoyed it. I didn't expect to enjoy it when I was looking at running it, if I'm completely honest.
What about the fundraising over the last 10 days? How's that gone?
I'm over $3,000 now. So that's been good. I posted, I think 3 days before when I was packing my stuff, posted the photo of the kit out. and uploaded something about I'd put in that, I put my bib number as well for anyone who wanted to track me. And I also said, due to my injury, I am going to be walking it, because I didn't want people tracking me and thinking, oh, has something happened? Why is she going so slowly? So I put that, I put a thing out saying, in spite of doing everything I can, I am still injured, but I'm going to be doing it, this, that, and the other. And that definitely produced a flurry of sponsorships between then and actually racing. And then I think just afterwards I was £50 shy of 1,000. So I shared, the next morning or whatever, I'd made this video with like photos and videos from sort of the day for me, if you like. So I'd shared that, and someone just, my brother's girlfriend, just put a thing, commented on it, and she said, I put on there, really pleased to have achieved it. My goal was, doesn't matter about the time, but I said my 2 targets, to complete it and to raise money. I said I only needed to get 2,000 officially, but I'd always wanted 3. That had been my Just Giving, set that as my target. So I put on there, I thought, cheeky, £50 shy of my second target, which was to make, to raise £3,000 for the hospice. My brother's girlfriend just straight away commented, "You've done that now." She'd donated, which was lovely. So yeah, I probably had £500 maybe, one way or another, in that last 10 days or so.
Well, a lot of the work you did in your fundraising was on the event that you operated, wasn't it? A month or so, 3 weeks ago, was it? Something like that,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Yeah. So to pick up 500 like that is absolutely fantastic, and just shows that a lot does come in the week around the race, a few days before, a few days afterwards. So what's next for you then? Another marathon or a half?
Well, the first thing I've promised to do is to get my injury actually recovered. I'd sort of said, my mum had said, and my dad, they'd both said, look, we know you're going to do it, and we know you'll complete it, because you've always been a determined what's it, I'll say. And so great, we really proud of you, but please promise that you will take the time afterwards to actually get yourself better. So I've promised that I will I'll do that. On the Friday night beforehand, everyone in our charity WhatsApp group was like, oh, have you entered the ballot? The ballot had come out. Have you entered the ballot? And everyone's going, yeah, I have. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, what are these? Like, why? Like, anyway, Friday night when I went to bed on my own in this accommodation in London, just before I went to sleep, what did I do? I entered the ballot. Kind of on the basis that I will never get a place. So just wait for it now, having like, I think I wouldn't feel comfortable going for it again next year fundraising, because most of my sponsorship in the end came from just people just sponsoring me. Although I'd anticipated most of it coming from the event that we did, it didn't. Most of, probably all bar 500 or something, came from just people just giving me money.
What would you have done differently about the event? I know you had some cost, didn't you?
I think, I don't actually know if I was to do another one, having, like, if it wasn't now my first one, if I was to do another one, I would put on probably a few events, and so that people are not sponsoring you, they're paying for something, they're getting something. I would definitely try and cut costs right down as much as possible. So rather than calling in lots of favors, I mean, we had amazing raffle prizes. The raffle, I would definitely do a raffle again, and I would make sure I sold tickets far and wide. I think we could have made almost as much money possibly from the raffle if we'd just done a raffle, maybe. I think doing a night was really good, but I would pick the date more carefully. I think that was our issue, was that people just couldn't come. So I'd take more planning into picking the right date. Bingo is a really, I know someone who'd had a really successful bingo night. So that would probably be something else. Or things like race nights and things where your outgoings are kept quite low, so your profit is higher. So yeah, if I was to do another one now, I would focus on providing events, or providing things for people, so that the money that comes in, they're not just paying it to be nice, because I wouldn't feel comfortable now asking anyone to do that.
I think in this economic climate, that is a real consideration. I mean, there are still tens of thousands of people who will make a donation, but I think there's a lot more who would appreciate something back in return, and maybe they will then donate a little bit more because they've had either a night out or the opportunity to be involved in a raffle or quiz or whatever it is. And it also shows how much effort you're making to put that on. I mean, you obviously spent a lot of time planning that event, but didn't get as much profit out of it for the charity as you probably would have liked for a number of different reasons. But you were, you did really well to then get so much from friends and family, because in effect, probably you're saying you raised about 2,500 from social media.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, it might have been more like 2,000, 1,000, I don't know, but the bulk of it came from, just people that I know and people, people that know me. And that definitely, it's very humbling. And again, but it also increased the pressure of wanting to make sure I did it for myself and for them and for the charity. But I think there are definitely, getting something for your money is a big thing. Some people just don't. I had anonymous donations. I still don't know who they're from, for like £100. I had quite a few of those. And I'm like, I wish I knew who to thank, because that is just so generous. I mean, obviously there's a reason they chose to be anonymous, but thank you, whoever, and it wasn't just like one. I had a few like that. I had a few companies that sponsored me who said, and I think that's really lovely, but also for a company point of view, for them to, the sort of tax things for them is a lot of companies are like, yeah, we'll happily sponsor you. So I wouldn't have ever thought to ask a company. In fact, I hadn't asked anyone. Someone I know who works for someone's like, oh, we'll sponsor you. It's like his own company. It's like, oh, we'd love to sponsor you. And they gave me 100. When he said we'd love to sponsor you, I was thinking, oh, they'll probably give me 20 quid. That'd be amazing. They gave me 100. And so, I think don't be afraid to kind of politely ask people, but also if you're able to offer something back. The raffle was a really successful, and the casino tables were if we did another event, I think nicest about having the band we could have, if we hadn't had the band there, we had a live singer who didn't charge us, and she was fantastic, and we had these casino tables that cost us we paid for the time of the staff just over 100 quid or something, and they brought in a lot of money, because people obviously buy dollars, whatever, to play them. And we had the prize for the person at the end with the most chips was dinner, bed and breakfast in a hotel. So it was a decent, a really decent prize. So I think probably I might have, in hindsight, I might have knocked the band on the head perhaps and just done it that way.
This is the point of these podcasts. They're there to help people doing it in future years, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of people planning a similar night. So I think these are useful learnings. You did incredibly well, and I think a real emotional roller coaster for you, without a doubt. Going along so well in your training, then having a major setback, and then doubting whether you'd even be there, and to get round and enjoy it, I think is absolutely crucial, because it is hard for people to adjust from expecting a certain time or planning for a certain time, and then having to totally reassess what they're going to do. A lot of people would have pulled out and just said, no, I'll go back another year, and they never do. That's the point. But for you, to battle through and do what you've done, I think you did an amazing job. And I hope that your next one, which I'm sure there will be a next one, you're going to have a few sessions with the physio now, obviously, but then hopefully in 2 or 3 months, when things have settled down, you can start planning. And if you get that ballot place, well, you'll be back next year.
Good. Cool.
Thanks for listening to this Sapphire Running Zone podcast. Keep checking back, as we have lots more podcasts coming soon.